Hi and welcome to my second part of my tutorial for Esenthel engine for creating general user interface objects and using them in your game. Now, last time what we did was we created this window with all this debugging information and buttons and crap in the Esenthel editor, GUI editor, and essentially have been left with a debug GUI object. Now, today what we're going to do is we're going to learn about how to actually code this. Now, to facilitate this, I've made a class for my debug UI, and it's a singleton class, which means only one of it can ever exist. And I've called it debuggery. Yes, that is the name. I like to be different sometimes. So, I've just done this to facilitate this whole process. However, don't worry about this class, just worry about the commands that are created and you can sort that out in your own code structure. All you need to know is that these functions that I've created, initialize is called whenever I want to use the debugging. So for example, whenever I start a game or load a level, I'll want to debug parts of that level, so I'll initialize it. And whenever I leave a level, I'll terminate. The update function, which is called every frame, which will be called every frame in the standard Esenthel update callback. I've made a hide and show function, of course, because you don't want to have the debugging screen there all the time. I'm going to be able to press a key and it'll show up, and then I can close it and it'll hide. And I've created 3 other functions for disable, enable, and apply, which will directly to relate to clicking these buttons. You don't have to make a function for each button. I'm just doing it in this case. But all those functions are empty at the moment. So what we'll do now is we will add the code to get this GUI to work. First things first, we need to load this GUI object into this class, and what we need for that is a GUI object. And we will name that GUI underscore debug. Now, what I want to do is I want to actually load the GUI object, not in the initialize function, in the constructor, and I'll show you why in a sec. Let's go GUI underscore debug, and then to load we go .load, and then we go encode file name, and we drag and drop that into there. If you don't know, encode file name turns a UID, a unique ID, into a string because the GUI object load function requires a string to the file path of the GUI. So you're using encode file name to turn that into that. So now that's open, that's loaded. Now that doesn't mean it's going to be shown or anything. Now you might think, well, we maybe need to call an update or a draw function on that GUI object. Well, not quite yet. Let's first go to our initialize function. Now, if I explained before that this function I will call when I first want to use the GUI. So to use this debugging screen. And in my case, that's when I load a game. So if you want things to be managed nicely, you can simply add GUI objects to the global GUI. So the global GUI is called GUI, and you can see that's an instance. I've just gone to the Esenthel header for GUI. It's an instance of the struct that is automatically drawn by the engine. So let us go to back here, and to add this GUI object to the GUI, I simply go plus equals GUI underscore debug. It's a bit different, but I actually like how this happens. It's basically the operator plus equals has been overloaded for a GUI to simply add GUI objects. And in terminate, well, I don't want the debug to come up when it's terminated, so I'll go GUI minus equals GUI debug. So now that's done there. Now there's one more thing you're going to need to do to draw the GUI. It won't draw automatically. You'll need to type GUI.draw. However, that has to be typed in the appropriate place, and an update is not the appropriate place. Because this is a global GUI, I don't have to call GUI draw within this class. I can call GUI draw within this draw function, GUI.draw. Now, I've actually already called GUI draw within these a stack of other functions, so I'm going to actually delete this. However, that's what you need to draw it, and it has to be in the Esenthel draw callback. So GUI.draw. That'll draw anything, any objects that have been added to the GUI. Now, let us simply test that. If there's compile errors, I'll fix them and tell you I won't make you sit through it. So, alright, let's start a new game. And you can see our debugging window is here, and I can do stuff, check boxes, click buttons. However, now it's good that it's drawing and we've got it in the game, but we need a bit more. Like, obviously nothing's happening, of course, because we didn't code anything to happen when these buttons are clicked or checked or enabled. So that's the next step. Let's go back to the code editor and add that functionality. Also, I don't want it to simply just be there straight away. I want the window to only be shown when I press a certain button, tilde maybe. So let's go back into the code and do that. Alright, so first things first, we need to get more control over the individual GUI objects, and what we need for that is we need to remember the names of all of the relevant parts. So let's first go with get the window. So what we need is we need a window, and it needs to be a pointer, and we're going to call it, I'm going to call it exactly the same name as what I've named it here. So that would be wind_debug. Debug. Now, next thing we're going to do is we're going to get the checkboxes. And once again, we go to the checkbox, we get its name. So this one is cbox db physics, and I'm going to go cbox db physics. Now, I'm quickly going to chuck in all the rest, but I'm not going to record that because it'll take too long. Okay, so I'm back here, and you can see I've filled out one value pointer for each of these objects. And it's very simple how we get these objects from the GUI object. We go, so let's get our window, debug equals GUI main dot, oops, sorry, GUI main, GUI debug dot get, so window, so get window. And that's where we have to specify the name, and luckily because we named it the same, the variable the same as what it's called, we just type that in there. Then we go and do the same for all of them. Oops. cbox _db physics equals GUI. So yeah, these are all pointers, and you need to get a pointer to them. So that's why we're using this reference operator, debug.get checkbox, and of course the same name, db physics, and I'll get a button underscore disable equals GUI underscore debug.get button underscore disable. I'm just going to go ahead and fill all these in out of the video. Okay, so I've put all those in and I've got all my pointers to all the GUI objects I need. Now what I can do is do stuff with it. So first of all, we want the window to be hidden. So let's go wind underscore debug and let's make it start hidden. And what we want in the update function is, well, if I've pressed a key, we want it to show itself. So let's go if kb.bp, which keyboard button pressed, and kb, let's make it tilde, kb tilde. Then we are going to, first we've got to check if it's hidden or not. So if wind debug hidden, so this returns a boolean whether the window is hidden or not. If it's hidden, we want it to fade in, debug fade in. You could just do show, however I like the fade in effect. Else wind debug fade, man that's annoying, fade out. Alright, so now we have our window. I can open up my window by pressing tilde. I can also close it by pressing tilde, and also it'll start hidden. Now we need a bit more. Let's first go to our functions here with the buttons. Actually, I don't think I need a, let's see, this apply is wrong. I don't think I need a function for close because it's very simple. Let's just do the function for close. So we need the close button, and because this is a pointer, we're going to need to do something. So the way that we determine if a button has been pressed is by using the parenthesis operator. However, because this is a pointer, this won't work. We have to convert this pointer into not a pointer by doing that, dereferencing, and then we can use the operator. And that'll return a boolean whether that close button was clicked or not. So we'll go if that was clicked, basically. Button close was clicked, then we basically want to fade it out as well. It's doing the exact same thing as the tilde. Of course, you can't click the button when it's hidden, so we don't have to check if it's hidden or not. And let's do it. Get those other buttons out of the way. So if what were the other buttons called? Button enable has been, so button enable, dereference it, and then you just put the parenthesis after it as if it were a function. And we're just going to call the enable function. If button disable, same thing, disable. Sometimes what I like to do is make this an else function, because obviously you can't click on two buttons at once, and it just saves doing extra ifs. But who cares? It does. You don't need to. That's personal taste. So that's all set. I don't think we're going to need a how and show. I pretty much ignored them, so we'll get rid of those. Now all we have to do is fill out these enable and disable functions by, when we click enable, we're going to check the state of all the checkboxes and then apply some sort of debugging. Okay, so basically it works exactly the same way as the button. So we've gone enable, we're going to go through our things. Now for example, right now I only have a couple of debugging things, and I'm just going to debug the triggers for now. So let's grab this one, just so I remember it. We want to check if this checkbox is checked. We do the exact same thing. Go if, and then we need to dereference it, and then we do the parenthesis. So that means that's checking if the checkbox is checked. Then I'm going to go tverse inst. Don't worry about this. This is just a function that I have to call to enable debugging of the triggers. Debug. Sorry. Triggerverse inst debug triggers and true. So you'll have to create your own functions for turning on debugging, whatnot. This is just how they would be called. Disable. What I'm going to do with disable is I will simply, I don't have to check any of the checkboxes because I'm just disabling everything. I'll go triggerverse inst debug triggers false. Now you might want, say for example, this disable function to uncheck the checkbox. I don't actually want that, but for that sake I will show you how. So you get your trigger, gotta dereference it of course, and then you use the set function. Actually I don't actually have to dereference it, I can use that set, and then I can put it on false, and that will uncheck that checkbox. So let's have a look. I'm going to delete that because I don't want that to happen. At that working in the game. Alright, let's have a look. Lovely, our debug window isn't shown. I'm going to press tilde. There it's shown. Tilde again, closes it. Just press close button. That works too. Now let's go to set the trigger debugging on and press enable. Aha, voila. It is called the appropriate function and it has enabled it. So I'm just going to click disable. And yeah, there you go. That's basically how it works. Now I can access any of these and apply them to my own functions. But I'm hoping you get the basic understanding there. There was just one thing that I couldn't go past, and that was that, well, this is a bit silly. This returns a true or false value anyway, this trigger box, this checkbox, so why don't I just replace this true value with whatever value that returns, get rid of the if, and then it'll work both ways with one line of code. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, I hope you learnt something. Got any questions, don't hesitate to ask. If you liked, subscribe and like, and I'll catch you later.